Hello everyone and welcome back to another Hugh Reviews, and Hugh today is currently going to review the new Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Disney. My initial thoughts on this film is it was okay. I was actually quite surprised. And honestly, the trailer that I watched before the actual film began, because I hadn't really seen the trailer before and I heard bad things about it and just all of this nonsense of wokery and wokerati and all of this and girl power and just unnecessariness and all of that. And the trailer, it just wasn't a good trailer. But I went to Corazon. It's expensive. I got nachos. They were good, so I wasn't going to leave. So I sat through the film. And again, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as what people I think are making it out to be. So let's just quickly sort of recap the story. So Indiana Jones is now a very aged Indiana Jones. He seems to be living quite like a depressed life. He appears to be in New York City. He's still a professor or a doctor or whatever you want to call him, a doctor of archaeology. But his life seems boring and depressed. Marion is nowhere to be seen. He who shall not be named is nowhere to be seen. I'm sorry, but do FK Twigs 30 and you're dead to me. And his students aren't very involved with him. And I get it. It's a sharp contrast to the earlier films where everyone was in love with their hot, sexy Dr. Archaeology with a whip. I get it. I get there's supposed to be a contrast, but it came up very depressing. And I guess that was kind of the point. I guess in a way that is kind of the point. Indiana Jones is at that point where there's no more adventure anymore. He's sort of a bit more limited in his ability. That's just what happens. But it does make it hard to watch, and it does make you feel a bit sad for him, but also a bit sad for Harrison Ford. Maybe the franchise should have just been finished with the aliens in the last film. But Disney got to make their money, right? And so while Indiana Jones is teaching one of his classes, there's of course smugly British posh student in the likes of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who just happens to be hanging out there. And she follows him because she's creepy. She reveals to him in a bar, that she is actually his goddaughter, also nicknamed Wombat. And she is very much intrigued in the Dial of Destiny, otherwise known as the Antikythera thingy mechanism. Ancient piece of supposed junk as far as Indiana Jones is concerned. However, she is pretty much convinced, based on her father, who was a friend of Indiana Jones, who's no longer with us, that it had a lot more importance, that it could do something with time. It could detect sort of how did they call it in the film? Basically points where you can time travel, points where you can time travel. There you go. And Indiana Jones reveals he has one half of this Dial of Destiny. Yeah, and then for some reason they're being chased by some guys and a German guy who was a Nazi that Indiana Jones had previously encountered in the likes of Mads Mikkelsen, I think his name is. I really should know this, but I don't. And of course, then the film goes into a bit of globe-trotting. They're trying to find the other half of the Dial of Destiny. Yeah, eventually they do find it. The German Nazi guy does use it. Yeah, we'll talk about what happens after he uses it in a bit. But let's just cover some other bits and pieces. I didn't think the film was overall bad. I thought there were moments of okayness. To be honest, the bar has been set kind of low by the previous film. So it was kind of either it would stay mid or it will go lower, and I think it just sort of stayed mid. The first 20 minutes of the film, people have disagreed with me, but I thought the de-aging technology that was used for the first 20 minutes of the film. So the first 20 minutes is Harrison Ford as young Indiana Jones fighting the Nazis in Germany. Well, not fighting the Nazis, trying to reclaim lots of archaeological stuff, probably for the British Museum. And in the process, they sort of, get attacked, bombs explode, all of that. And quite frankly, I thought the de-aging was well done. The only time I really got sort of taken out the fantasy, and I think that's the other thing, I think you have to just remember, look, of course it's technology, of course you're going to notice it is technology being used. Harrison Ford is not suddenly de-aged, but we know it's technology. You just sort of have to envelop yourself in the fantasy of it, because you're going to the cinema, but it was his voice that took me out of that fantasy, because his voice does sound a lot more sort of whispery and I've lived 80 years, it's different. And so, yeah, it just felt a bit odd at times, but overall you sort of got used to it. And that sort of 20 minutes of the first part of the film it was all right. It was okay. It was fun. It was exciting. yeah, it was okay. The more sort of, well, not modern day, it's like set in 1969, I think, but the more sort of modern day part of it, it was okay. It felt like there were a few too many sort of weird callbacks. For example, there's like this little kid that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like hanging around with. Yeah, it feels like a very sort of weird callback to Short Round in the second Indiana Jones film. That's okay, but the kid wasn't like a great actor in it, and that sort of again sort of took me out of the fantasy of going to see a film. Backed acting can do that. In terms of other cast members, Harrison Ford, he just sort of felt a bit over it. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, though, was basically playing Fleabag. She didn't feel like she fit into the film. Like, she wasn't terrible. I didn't hate the chemistry between her and Indiana Jones, but there was just something off about it. That's the best way I can describe it. Mads Mikkelsen as the villain, I thought he was a good villain. I thought he does what he always does. Like, he's very much typecast in that villain role, and there's a reason. Like, he's good at it. I think coming back towards the end of the film, so they get the two parts of the Dial of Destiny. The Nazi guy, Mads Mikkelsen, he does use it while they're on a plane. And they fly into like a vortex, and Indiana Jones is like, oh no, you've done it wrong, you've calculated it wrong, and it turns out they did. It's because basically he wanted to go back and essentially win the World War II for the Germans. You know, he's a Nazi. What else do you expect? However, yeah, the coordinates were wrong, and they end up in something like 231 BC with the guy who made the device, who is currently in the process of inventing the device, while there's like Roman centurions and like a Roman war going on in Italy and just all of this stuff. And it feels very like that's the part of the film where I got completely sort of taken out of this, because I know in previous Indiana Jones films we've seen like weird happen. We've seen faces being melted off. We've seen a guy have his heart ripped out. We've seen the old guy who aged really quickly. We've seen these kind of crazy things in the original trilogy, but at the same time, it always felt sort of a bit more grounded, because remember when the guy, like, they melted in the first film? Indiana Jones didn't see that. He closed his eyes. So it kind of felt like he didn't see it, and it just made it feel less real. The second film, you could say there's a bit of sort of magical elements to that, but at the end of the day, a guy with his physical hand rips out someone's heart like my ex. It's more sort of tangible, it's more grounded in a weird way. But when you actually have planes flying through some kind of vortex and time travel and then Roman centurions everywhere, it just felt a bit very weird. And the whole ending part just felt very like quick, very, very quick. By the way, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, he had been shot. So like he was shot and he was just sort of like walking around. So, you know, explain that. An 80-year-old who's been shot, but anyway. Ugh, whatever. And Indiana Jones is like, I want to stay here. I want to stay in the past. I'm an archaeologist. This is what I live and breathe, is the history, and now I'm living in history, and blah, 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 blah. And then basically Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like, fuck shit, decks him, and then he wakes up back in New York City, and it was just a bit like, what? Like, it was just so quick. And then all of a sudden, like, Marion's back because they were getting divorced. It was a weird subplot. She's back, and they have, like, this weird callback to the first film where it's like, kiss my elbow, kiss my tit or something. I don't know. It was, and then the film basically ends. The ending of the film was not great. Put it that way. I guess my concluding thoughts of this, I don't even know. If you're a fan of Indiana Jones, maybe don't see it. If you're looking for just sort of a bombastic, cartoonish action film, yeah, go see it. Why not? I would definitely recommend go seeing it. It's kind of like a popcorn film. You're not going there to take it seriously or for it to win an Oscar. You're going there because you want to see some just like weird action films. You are like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see the new Indiana Jones. I feel like it's very much that kind of film, but if you're a hardcore fan, maybe just avoid it. If you don't like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, maybe just avoid it. And I will leave this with I'm going to be nice, a 6 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching my review, and I hope you enjoyed, and take care, and I'll see you in the next one.